Week 10 of the NFL season is upon us, and there is plenty of cash and tokens to win on Fantasy Spin for all of your Week 10 daily fantasy football contests. So make sure you download the Fantasy Spin app so you can experience the newest and most exciting way to play this season and spin to win. And make sure you stick around because right after this, Colby Conway, Andrew Hall breaking down everything for Week 10 action on Fantasy Spin. Like I mentioned, I am Colby Conway, but more importantly, we have the mind of Andrew Hall. Find him over on X at Andrew Hall FF. So, Andrew, as we're looking at this games here, the 1 and 4 o'clock windows, actually some games with some pretty high game totals. Giants, Bears, Bills, Dolphins, Ravens, Vikings, Patriots, Bucks, all in the mid to upper 40s. Kind of before we hit the spin for the first time, any particular games and or players that you're like, these are the games we want. These are the players we want. We got to have them if we want to win a little, put a little jingle in our pocket.
No, and thanks for having me. I'm actually really looking forward to that Patriots Bucks game, to be honest. I just have a feeling that one's going to be maybe not necessarily like a shootout or like close game or anything like that. I just feel like it's going to be a good NFL game. And I think it's going to be a good fantasy game because I feel like both of those offenses tend to filter to their guys really well. I guess we'll see, right? We don't know. I also think that there could be some fun in that Lions Commanders game. I think that could be kind of interesting in that 4 o'clock window. I think that's a rematch of the playoffs from last year where the Lions got knocked out. So it's kind of a revenge match. And then obviously Jaden Daniels isn't playing. So what are the Commanders going to look like? And again, filtering to guys, like it's going to be all Debo and all Ertz, I guess. Like it's a lot of questions, but that could be a fun one. So yeah, a couple of really good games. I'm looking forward to this weekend.
And that 4 o'clock window, Eastern time, obviously is really intriguing. Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, Niners, Lions, Commanders. So, you know, if you're someone like me who defaults like, man, I love having someone in those late games just to see if I can move up or down the leaderboard or win some cash there.
Yep.
Those are definitely going to be some intriguing matchups there. But we'll give the board a spin for the first time. And there's still some players trickling in here. But right in the upper right, we do get Colston Loveland. To me, I thought the breakout was kind of the writing was on the wall the past couple of weeks. Usage looked good. And then obviously the numbers were really ballooned in week 9 with the game-winning touchdown there late. But even prior to that, even if that didn't happen, he was still like 50 some odd yards and a touchdown. So let me ask you this. He's getting against the Giants. There's a lot of pub behind him. Is the Colston Loveland breakout upon us, or is he just the most recent tight end to get the Bengals on the schedule?
I think it's more the latter than the former. I think he's playing the Bengals, and the Bengals are terrible against tight ends. I'm a Bengals fan, not hiding it. I've watched a lot of all the Bengals games, and I wasn't shocked at all that he had a good week, but I'm not necessarily sure I'm banking on it again. I don't think that it's a Colston Loveland breakout as much as a not breakout or a very expected bad Bengals defense. But again, I think he's got some potential. And if that offense tends to filter to him more, then we should, have some options. But there's just a lot of mouths to feed, and that offense is a little messy for me. So I'm not 100% on that.
And looking at the board here for the tight end spot, there's guys like Mark Andrews, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Sam Laporta. I don't know if Loveland's going to be the tight end that we want to win a little bit of cash. Down in the flex
especially
spot.
Early in the spins. Yeah, we don't need to go tight end just yet. We don't need to risk it. But yeah, I'm with you. I think there's a lot of other better options.
Colston Loveland with 2 spins remaining looks a lot different than Colston Loveland with 9 spins remaining. That's what I always like to say there. We do get Jahmyr Gibbs. You mentioned the Lions Commanders game. There's really no reason to not lock in Gibbs.
I think so too. Gibbs was the one that comes up easy for me here. I think that offense is going to be not necessarily filtering through Gibbs, but he's going to get plenty of looks. And that Commanders defense, not bad, but not great. And I think that's the clear choice on spin number 1. Even though he's in our flex, I'm still happy to take him there because I wanted to make sure I get one of those stud running backs, and he's up there for me.
And the Commanders' 8th most receiving yards allowed to position. Obviously, we know Gibbs' prowess in the passing attack. And you mentioned him down there in the flex. I could argue that it's actually better that we get some of those studs down the flex because there is so much volatility. Like, look right to the right. Obviously, if we get Gibbs in the running back, we're going to lock him in. We get Gibbs in the flex, we're going to lock him in. If you don't get Gibbs at running back, there's other options. But look like right next to him in the flex spot, we get a kicker. I don't think this is not week 9 Kaimi Fairbairn, who's making 5 field goals that gives us enough to potentially win a lineup with a kicker in the flex. So,
well, there are a lot of deep players that you don't want to see in the flex. I agree with you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the screen, the only 2 other names that I find kind of actually, I'll say this. There's 3 names that are kind of intriguing. The Giants are so bad against the run that DeAndre Swift is interesting. However, the counter argument to that is Kyle Monunganai, the rookie that came in, just dominated with all the work that he got. Chris Olave is the only guy in town, but it's not necessarily a great match against Carolina. And then I can't trust any Buffalo pass catcher other than Dalton Kincaid at this point. So Swift, Olave, Shakir, are any of them worth a lock, or are we going to the next spin with one player in our lineup?
I am tempted to lock in Olave. You mentioned like the filtering, and again, the offense is going to run through him. I don't mind doing that on an early player like this, especially because, like, again, there are a lot of depth players that end up coming in to miss, and I'd rather have Olave in one of those receiver slots early, just because I think you can do better. But he's a great wide receiver too, and that kind of locks that in. You don't have to worry about it too much. So that was going to be my other play for this round. I'm with you on Swift. I'm not exactly sold that I think we can do better. Maybe is a better way to put it. I don't hate Shakir. I kind of hate Tua, right? So like none of the other players are really that attractive to me. So yeah, I was going to do Olave and Gibbs looking at it first pass. So I'm right there with you.
And the nice thing too is, if we happen to get it, like we have 4 locks remaining, but if we get a monster spin here of like, oh geez, Lamar, Trey
JSN,
McBride, Puka, Devontae Adams, all these guys, we can always unlock Olave. So
yep.
I'm okay preserving him into spin number 2. We actually get it. Okay. Wow.
That was a heck of a spin.
I'm a little caught off guard. Okay. Let's take a step
what you were talking about. This is a monster spin.
I know. I'm caught off guard now. I got all flustered seeing all those the stud players that we got there. So let's go up top. Caleb Williams. Obviously, the fantasy production has been pretty good. The Giants are allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season. But when we look at this, as good as Williams has been, if we want to win a contest, like, I find myself really liking both quarterbacks in that Patriots-Bucs game, like you mentioned earlier. I really like Jackson Dart on the other side of this game. There's also Lamar. There's Matt Stafford. Like, there's plenty of guys here. So Caleb Williams is a top 3 projected quarterback there. But do we lock him in? Because I find myself getting a little more giddy and getting those the excitement butterflies in my stomach there for the Jackson Darts of the world, especially in this matchup.
I kind of agree, especially in starting one quarterback. I think Caleb Williams is currently ranked quarterback 9 overall on Fantasy Pros for this week. Like, that's not bad, but that's not great. And then again, it's something like this. You want to have as much pop as you can at the top of your lineup there. And yeah, I don't hate Williams, but I don't love him enough to lock him here, especially with all the other options we've got on the spin.
Yeah, so let's look at some of those options. George Kittle, Kyron Williams, and Trey McBride is just an elite tight end. You got to love him with Jacoby Brissett. And I'm looking at it here. Seahawks are 7th most, 8th most receptions allowed to the tight end on the year. They're right or 8th most fantasy points per game. Like, I would love to get Trey McBride up in that tight end spot, but there's an argument to be made that you could lock McBride and lock in Kittle and kind of be good to go.
That's kind of what I was going to say. Like, this is one of those, again, I wish McBride was in the tight end. Well, hey, Kittle's in there, and who cares? That's close enough. I'm probably fine locking in both of those, to be honest. I think you've got a good enough, tight end is kind of a bleak fall off after 8 or 9, and you've got 2 of the top 5, and potentially in this kind of thing, maybe top 3, because Bowers has already played. And he didn't do well, right? So like that happens, right? Tight ends do that. But if I'm going to lock in any tight end, McBride's my dream, and I'm happy with that. And then Kittle as a flex, I'd be fine with that. So who cares? They're swapped. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and then Kyron's on the board. We're not going to lock in Charbonnet, so we can kind of skip on him. And then Jalen Waddle is about the only receiver that Tua throws to. But if I remember correctly, Tua's game logs against Buffalo are quite porous, to say the least. So can we trust? Let's just kind of lump them together here. Kyron and Waddle. Are we locking in either one of them, or are we holding out for more?
I'm probably locking in Kyron because I'm with you on Charbonnet. I'm not really feeling that. But Kyron, again, is another, good floor play. I like that, kind of like Olave was. But to that note, then Waddle's not a good ceiling play, right? So like, I don't think I want to lock in Waddle here. I don't hate Waddle this week. I just feel like we've got Olave, we've got Williams, we've got Kittle. Like, we've got some of those good floor options. I like Gibbs and McBride more for the pop and for their upside, but I don't know if Waddle's got that upside, like you said, against Buffalo. But then also that offense has just looked bad, like not even getting touchdown last week on Thursday night. I mean, that was just disgusting to watch. And I don't think the Bills are much worse than Baltimore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're not the Bengals. Let's just be honest. If they were playing the Bengals, I'd say Waddle. I could see that, but they're pretty tight against the teams they play. The Bills are. So I think I'm probably locking Kyron. I'm locking Kittle. I'm locking McBride, and I'm rolling the next one here to kind of see if we get some upgrades. There is some logic too, because you mentioned this before, like locking in Waddle here to kind of cover our bases, but then we can't roll to wide receiver at all, right? Yep. So I kind of like the idea of locking one of them early and then letting the other one spin and play. And I'm doing the same thing with the running backs, right? Like, just lock in one that you like, and then try to use those spins for that upside. That's my plan here.
And in these contests too, if everyone's going to hold out for like those top projected players, like people might be like, no, I'm not going to take a tight end in the flex. Like maybe the double tight end is our differentiator from somebody else. Like someone gets McBride, they don't have Kittle. We kind of corner the tight end market and it's in the flex spot. At the end of the day, regardless of where the position comes, 20 fantasy points is 20 fantasy points.
I don't care how you get it. It just goes it all adds to the same score. I'm with you.
That's right. And the same thing. If you're down 20 or up 20, fantasy points all count the same in my book there. So James Cook, obviously top 5 projected running back, missed practice Wednesday with the foot/ankle. I do believe he returned Thursday. I haven't seen anything as we're recording this on Friday, but my goodness, is it a great spot against a Miami Dolphins defense that has just been atrocious against running backs.
Game narrative is just all Cook, right? I mean, they're going to be up 21-0, and they're just going to hand it to Cook. I also think the Bills were off last week, if I recall, right? Or didn't they have a bye last week or 2 weeks ago? So I feel like he's had some time to heal up, I think, and maybe that's helpful. I also feel like the Dolphins are not great against anything, really. We saw that last week too. So I think there's a chance he catches a lot of passes and could very easily outperform that projection. But we haven't talked about this much, right? If there's a chance that he doesn't play, projected 17 is not bad. I mean, that's kind of, again, a solid floor play, and then you're banking on Kyron for your ceiling. So yeah, I'm locking in Cook. I'm happy with that. Lawrence and Kirk, I mean, again, if I end up with them, I'm happy, but I'm not locking them with 7 to go.
Well, as the resident Texans fan, it's tough to throw on that Houston defense. And as a resident Texans fan, they don't know what the hell they're doing with the offense and their offensive weapons.
Yeah.
And you could argue there's 2 receivers, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, that should be playing a lot more that simply aren't for the likes of checks notes, Braxton Berrios. But I digress. That's not what this. That's not.
Well,
what
and
this
I
is
just
about.
that game too, like that. Those two are playing each other. I don't know if it's going to be a shootout. I really don't. I don't know. Neither offense really wows me right now. Yeah.
You can't put Texans and shootout in the same sentence unless it's
exactly. I don't think
Texas and shootout. Then you're okay. Yeah. No Texans and shootouts. They can't score enough to keep up with that. So obviously now 6 spins remaining here. We're looking for our duo quarterback or receiver, or if we get a stud, we can unlock someone else to lock somebody in. JJ McCarthy gets a Baltimore defense that's getting healthier, and I saw that Baltimore had no injury report. No players with a designation after it felt like weeks of a CVS receipt of an injury report. And Wan'Dale Robinson is one of my favorite plays overall this week because slot receivers against Chicago has been money in the bank. But can we do better than a McCarthy and Wan'Dale duo?
You know what I'm leaning, and my first thought was let's pass on these, but I might prefer Wan'Dale to Olave and kind of like unlock Olave and take Wan'Dale because I think he's got more upside. I don't think there's a negative on either one of them. I think they're both kind of that middle level kind of receiver. But I mean, you make some arguments there, and I could see the logic of saying, well, give me the number 1 with Jackson Dart, and maybe we can stack if we can get Dart. That could be kind of nice. I also think that Olave and Wan'Dale are both projected for about the same, but I think Wan'Dale's upside is higher. Just that offense is probably better. So that's probably the only move I would make here is that, swapping Olave for Robinson's kind of a lateral move, but I feel like it's got more upside availability. That's the only option I'm looking at.
Hey, you don't have to convince me on one of my favorite plays. And if you want to default to Vegas, that Giants Bears is sitting in the mid 40s while Saints Panthers is upper 30s. So
there's something else to tie break.
Let's default to Vegas. We'll just take the game with the higher.
They know what's up.
they do sometimes too well, and it's a little terrifying. So that's not gonna do it.
Do we even have to talk about? I mean, like Bryce Young and Rashid Shaheed. I don't mind either player again, but in this format, I'm not excited about either. Again, last spin, I'm hoping and praying Rashid gets 3 touchdowns or something on his new team, but I don't think that's going to happen. And Bryce Young looked again downright terrible last week against the awesome, I guess, Packers, who did terrible as well. So yeah, I'm not wowed by either of those guys.
Yeah, I don't think Young or Shaheed's going to be in many winning lineups here.
Oh boy. Okay.
So
now we have a discussion.
Dart. On the other side of that game too, Andrew Phillips with Olamide Zaccheaus. Andrew Phillips has been one of the worst slot corners in the season. So yes, the projection kind of sucks for Zaccheaus, but if you look last week, he was great in a good matchup. Can he do it again? And I love Jackson Dart. Obviously, I don't have to say that anymore. I'm in on Wan'Dale. I've already mentioned Jackson Dart. So I think at the very least, we have to consider here, we can't really unlock anybody. It's not like we can let's unlock Kittle and move McBride up to tight end. Obviously, we can't do that. Yep. So it's like, if we really want Dart, we got to take a lock from somebody else that we've already kind of really gushed over, unless it be Wan'Dale.
I think I kind of like the stack. I always try to do that if I can, just in any DFS lineup. It just makes it's easier to compound your victory. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. It's pretty obvious. Yeah. The only one that I would look at, consider at least, or kind of talk about unlocking would be Kyron Williams.
Mhm.
And the only reason I'm thinking that is, again, his projection's pretty good. So if he doesn't do well, you still got, if he doesn't play, I guess he doesn't, has that floor, but he should play. And I think that team, that offense doesn't necessarily go through Kyron as much as I want it to.
Yeah.
I would probably, if it were me, I would unlock Kyron for Dart. And I see the logic of maybe unlocking Kittle for Dart, but I'd have to be convinced on that. On the other end, Zacchaeus, again, Bengals. I don't know if it counts. Like, I don't know if that's something I'm willing to just say the Bears are going to feed him. They've got a lot of mouths to feed. They had people out last week that are back this week. So I don't hate Zacchaeus, and I think you're right on the upside, but I'm not excited about him with these spins left. But I would be okay with unlocking Kyron and would be okay being convinced to unlock Kittle.
The only thing that scares me, if we unlock Kittle, we've already basically stolen
It
an elite
opens the
tight end.
door. Yeah,
Yep.
it opens the door to us getting like an Njoku in there instead, right? It opens the door to Musgrave or something, like one of those guys you're just not a fan of. And again, that makes me nervous. But running back, I think there's a little bit. I mean, Cook is up there. He's a top 5 running back this week. There's some options even lower that I'm okay with as opposed to tight end. So that's kind of why I'm leaning Kyron to unlock. And again, I think there is some logic too in saying, can we do better than Dart? Maybe, but man, that stack is exactly what I just talked about. I think that game is going to be a good game for both sides in a sense, but I think it's the Dart side that's going to get the points.
And with unlocking Kyron, like looking at the games here that we could get players from, Rico Dowdle is a running back that's still
Christian
available.
McCaffrey,
Derrick Henry,
Rashad White, even maybe, because you could look at the Bucky Irving injury. I mean, maybe White's the guy in a time where they get. So I think there's more options at running back for sure that I'm happy with. And again, at tight end, I am terrified of some of those things because, like, again, you've got Browns Jets, right? No tight ends in that game, but you could look at that and say, well, Quinshon Judkins or Breece Hall, I'm happy with the running backs, right? So like even in those crappy games, you sometimes have better running backs than tight ends anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm not leaving without Dart. So someone's going to have to go, and it's going to be Kyron in this place. So plenty of running backs we could do, like even like a Devon Achane there, and Debo with Swift back. Can't really.
Debo's tempting, but again, I don't think it's enough. And Monangai with Swift back, I mean, it's not enough to unlock anybody. Again, I think the stack, I can't undo that. And you're not moving your flexes of Gibbs and McBride. You can't touch that. So
nope. Yeah, we'll go ahead and spin, see if we can go.
There's White, like I mentioned, but again, I'm not unlocking Cook for him. I'm not unlocking. It's just he's not that good. If we end up with him, fine, but I'm not locking him in. And then Kendrick Bourne, I mean, what was a great waiver pickup for 1 week is no longer a great waiver pickup. So I'm not really excited about Bourne this week.
Yeah, and we're going for a duo here, so we just got to see if we can do anything. That's it.
All right.
With one spin left, I don't know if we can do better.
I think we locked the lineup, right? I think this is. I don't think you're going to get better than Breece Hall and Justin Jefferson. Nope. I mean, even if you got better on one, you're not getting better on the other. And this is where it's like, again, you said with one spin, I'm willing to throw that spin away and say let's walk to the battle with this. This is a solid team. I'm a fan.
Yep. Because who knows, we could spin and end up with Nick Chubb and Jalen Naylor, and that could be it.
So, oh God, yeah. That sounds terrible.
Will lock that lineup in, and then actually new this year from last time when you were on last year, Andrew, is we get a little pick'em contest here. So what we need to do, we have to pick at least 3. So of the players on the stream, we can only do more, no lesses, obviously, because this is our lineup. We want them to go over. Give me 1 or 2 of the players here on our lineup, on our spin here, that you are most confident in exceeding their projected total as shown on the screen.
Most confident in exceeding their projected total. I think my first one's Dart. I think we've already talked Dart up. I think 18 point. It says 18 at 16, right? That is 18.5.
Yep.
I think 18 is a pretty solid projection, but I think there's entirely a world where he throws 3 touchdowns and it runs for some and it's easily in the 20 to 30 range. So that's probably my number one. Jefferson with a projection of 17 is a very high projection. I haven't seen him get over that much recently. Like it's hit or miss. They do have McCarthy back, and obviously there's some connection, but I'm not going there. Cook is the other one that comes to mind as like a potential for over because we talked about the narrative. I think there's a world where he gets just 30 carries and 3 touchdowns and just goes off. So Cook, I probably put in here. And then we need a third player. Man, I'm just tempted by that Kittle projection. It's so low. It just feels like but he's goose egg before. You know what I mean? Like it just that offense is a little messy. So that's the only one because of the lowest projection that really kind of stands out. What are your thoughts on the third player here?
The two that I had right off the top that I wanted were Cook and Wandale. Those were the first 2.
Well, Wandale's not a bad choice either. Yeah, because again, it stacks with Dart. So I don't mind that logic and kind of just it's either all or nothing. I hate doing some overthinking on it. So
Yep.
yeah, if Dart does have a good day, so does Wandale. So
Yep.
I think that's a fair point.
Yep. Those Cook and Wanda were the two I wanted. So we're going to do those three there. 1,000 tokens, try to win 5,000, 5x our entry there. So we'll pick that in. And hey, look at that. Top 10 projection at the time of that we did this.
I don't hate
Can't,
that. Yeah,
can't
let's see.
complain
Now we
that.
got a lot to go, but I like that start. That's the way you do it. You want to
Yep.
have as good of a start as you can. I think we did it.
Absolutely. And I love the lineup looking at it. So that will be the week 10 preview for the fantasy spin cons, obviously cash and tokens. So make sure you get in the action so you can spin to win, experience the newest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, as well as liking and subscribing the video. Andrew, let everyone know where they can find you on the socials, where your writing and content is this football season.
Yeah, so I've kind of taken a step back from the podcasting game, which has been very nice, and family enjoys that. Still kind of tweeting things here and there, and trying to keep it football, but just the world's weird sometimes. But also, you can find me on that Twitter machine at Andrew Hall FF. I do write sometimes for Fantasy Pros. I got a couple different Dynasty articles I come out with when there's something that matters. Dynasty stashes are really tricky during the season because there's so much movement and everybody's already going and everybody's finding out those players. So stashing is really tricky as we get going. But once the trade deadline passes, that's when I'll start getting back into it, because then teams that are out of it are looking for more of that help. So the next couple of weeks, I'm sure I'll be coming out with another article. And then I do some things every now and then. They have like those weekly articles that Fantasy Pros puts out where they get a bunch of different pros that didn't put their ideas. I love those. I think that's really easy, digestible content. So I try to do some of those whenever they send me the option. So yeah, you can find me on there at Fantasy Pros. And again, just around Twitter and Andrew Hall FF.
That's right. Once again, over on X at Andrew Hall FF. You can find me on X at Colby R. Conway. And like I mentioned, get in on the action. Fantasy Spin is a blast. So if you want to spin to win, you should want to, and you want to experience the newest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports this football season, there's also basketball. There's also hockey for you basketball and hockey aficionados out there. Head over to the Google Play or the Apple App Store. Download the Fantasy Spin app today, and we will see you on the leaderboard. What's up, y'all? Hope you enjoyed the content. For the avoidance of doubt, please note that I, Colby Conway, am a DFS player entering these contests under the username Colby Conway. The strategies and recommendations in this video do not necessarily reflect the views of Fantasy Spin. Please play responsibly and visit fantasyspin.com/responsible gaming to take advantage of Fantasy Spin's responsible gaming resources.